Greetings. Welcome back. All right, in this video, I'm going to start teaching you how to play the verse for Man in the Mirror, the first verse. Now, in this song, each 4-bar phrase is a little bit different because of the lyrics and the vocal melody. So I figured it would be a good idea to just do one lesson for each 4-bar phrase. So now we're going to do phrase 1. As you'll recall from the sort of harmony overview lesson, I was describing to you how this bass line fits underneath the verse. Now, in order to build intensity, one of the things that they did on the recording was they started out with the bare minimum, meaning only Michael Jackson singing the melody at the beginning of the first verse. So there's no bass line. So one thing you have to do is envision that the bass line's there, but not fully stated yet. So it comes in on the E, leaves the first 2 notes off, okay? So here we go. It's going to sound like this. Blam, bam, bum, bam, bum, bam. For once in my life. Okay, 1, 2, I'll sing it again. 1, bing, bing, boom, bing, boom, bam. Blah, da, 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 da. Okay, now here's how I finger it. You can either slide or hammer. Second to the first, second to the fourth, and then an open B string, or then O2, O3. Shouldn't be other strings ringing there. Okay, so bim, bim, boom, bim, boom, bim. Let's just get that much. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, and. Okay, now after that, I sneak the second finger in. This is an odd fingering. I sneak it in on the 4th string as I'm holding the first finger on the 3rd string. So, all right. Now, I'm not exactly sure. Okay, so those 2 sustain, then you can let go of everything because it's a rather awkward grip. D and B together, if you can, and then once in my, boom, 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 and then some kind of C chord as filler. You can kind of decide what feels most comfortable to fill for that. Now, I know I've shown you that in a rather broken up manner. How about I do it real slow, and you'll just watch it go by. Okay, 1, 2, ready, and. Now, notice where that last hammer comes in. 1, 2, for once in my one life. It comes in after beat 1. The C bass note comes in right on beat 1. For once in my boom life. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Blam, 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 boom. He sings the word life, for once in my life, after beat 1. So count along with me and listen to this exact phrasing of how it falls. Okay? 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, and. So now what I'm doing in the bass, you might wonder, once I get the C chord, what am I thinking bass-wise? I'm thinking boom, 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 as the groove. Boom, boom. And it's also related to the groove that I teach in many other lessons. Boom, boom, bap, boom, boom, bap, boom, boom, bap, boom, 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 boom. So when in doubt, in this arrangement, I try to sneak in those rhythms on the bass when there are things above sustaining. So when we start this verse, it's like we're leaving out these first two bass notes. See, those aren't there. And then those are then ends. Here we go. One, nice and slow. 1, 2, oh, 1, 2, ready, and. Okay. Now the pickup to the next phrase, well, actually, we'll do that in the next video. We'll do the pickup to the next phrase in the next video. But that's bars 1 through 4 of verse 1. All right. All right. We are at verse 1 of Man in the Mirror, bars 5 through 8. And the phrase is a rather complex one. The phrasing, meaning the marriage of the melody and the rhythm, is rather complex here. So I will sing it to you. And once again, I can't stress enough, the very best thing is if you study the original recording. Okay, I'm gonna sing a pickup, meaning a few notes before beat 1. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Bum bubba da ba da babba dooba dooba babba da babba da babba dooba da. Okay. If you don't know the original, that won't have made any sense. One more time, and I will play the bass line with it. 1, 2, oh, 1, 2, 3. Boo dooba da, ba ya da, babba dooba dabba, babba da, babba dabba da, babba dooba da, boom, boom. Okay. I'll show you the fingering now. This is the pickup. Don't worry, I'll show you in time, in rhythm, once we get the fingerings done. So we're going back, then play the bass, then an open B string. Now, so playing 1 and 3, pull off, and then another G. Then ba, ooh, we're going to slide the second finger. Now, you got to end on your first finger on the D, and we're going to go ba, ba, ba. So we end up on a C chord. Let's do that much again. I'm going to do it very slowly for you in time. 1, 2, oh, 1, 2, 3. And we ended up on a C chord with the pinky there. The pinky was there first, and we added the C chord. Okay. Once we're on the C chord, do 2 pull-offs with the first finger. strum what's there. So this is, again, the first finger is sneaking in underneath the second finger in the second fret. Okay, that was up to tempo. How about I play phrase 1 and phrase 2 as slowly as I possibly can, and I'll try not to speed up. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, and. One more time, phrase 2, nice and slow. Alrighty. You'll notice that there are a lot of spots where I'm using unison kind of fingerings, meaning I'm using these two notes together. They should be in tune. I'm using these two notes together. And that's to achieve a certain kind of phrasing. When I fingered this, I went deep into trying to get it to lay exactly like the lyrics of the song laid. For example, gonna make a difference. So that's different from going, gonna make a difference. Gonna make it wrong. So the tools that we have at our disposal, hammer-ons, slides, slurs, pull-offs. If we're clever, hopefully, with those, we can match almost the sound of the exact phrasing of a word. So that was part of the trickiness of this project. One more time, I'm going to play the first 2 phrases for you, nice and slow, and then we're going to go on to the next lesson. Okay? A 1, a 2, a ready, and. Okay. And I did mention to you on verse 1 that you could do this as a hammer. I've been playing it as a slide. A hammer and a slide do almost the same thing. Or so that's again a question of your personal taste and what feels good under your hand. Alrighty, let's go to phrase 3 of verse 1. God bless. Alrighty, let's go to phrase 3 of verse 1, bars 9 to 12. All right. Alrighty, welcome back. We are at phrase 3, verse 1. This is bars 9 through 12. And now this verse, this phrase is very much like the first phrase, with the exception that the bass line starts to become a little bit more defined as an element. And when you listen to the original recording, you'll hear that with each one of these phrases, a little bit more solidity is added with each phrase so that it goes from very fragile to very full sounding. It's a pretty cool way of doing things. So I would like to sing you the phrase, even though I'm not a great singer, just to show you the musical idea, and then we will work on it on the guitar. Okay, so, and there is a pickup, so I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to start singing. Okay, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, boom, 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 bip, bip, boom, bip, boom, bam, bip, bip, boom, bip, boom, bam, blam, bam, boom, bam, boom, 2, 3, 4. That's third phrase, not fourth finger, third phrase. One more time. 1, 2, 3, boom, 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 bip, bam, bip, boom, bam, boom, bip, bip, boom, bip, boom, bam, 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 boom, bam, bam. Okay, and unlike the first phrase, we're going to have the bip, bip, boom, bip, boom, bam, bip, bip, boom, bam, boom, bam, bam, boo-doo-doo-doo. That bass line is going to be in there in full. Now, this happens to be one of the passages where I really like using the flat pick, because it should, I almost imagine the sound of like a Fender Strat or Telecaster with the articulation with the picking. Anyhow, here we go. Pickup is going to be D string, then G string, then second finger on the A. Boom, boom, boom. You're just going to slide that into the chord. That once this note gets to the chord, it actually is not a melody note. You're going ba ba ba, and now it's just hanging out there, and then ba ba bo da ba on ba ba. You're playing the open B, and then the fretted one. See what I just did there? 1, 2, 3, boom, boom, boom. Okay. Next, I'm going to use the first and third finger. I went, oops, no B string there. I'm hammering the first and fourth finger on the third string. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, same idea. We're going to bring the second finger down to the fourth string. Again, it looks rather funny in the camera, but it's third string with index finger. Second finger creeps in on the fourth string. Let me do that as though I'm playing it, because it's a little hard to explain it. Okay, so when I have to then grab that fourth, I let go of the fourth string. D. So it's the same melodic idea on the G and B strings, only we're accommodating our fingerings for this bass line to go down. Extremely difficult to play and talk at the same time, but I'm working on it. Okay, now we went down to C there. Okay, so when we get to that C, we're playing A, and then hammering on to the fourth string, and then we add the top two strings. So it's like a, you would call that a C add 9, but don't worry about that fancy name. Let's do this whole phrase nice and slowly. Again, the main thing to glean from here, the main thing to see, is the left hand fingerings. Okay, because the right hand, you can easily do this if you're a finger person. It's not a complex thing to do. Okay, so here we go. 1 and 2 and 3. One, two, 1, 2, 3. One, two, 1, 2, 3. And I don't know if you saw, but one of the things that I do, especially if I'm using a pick, even if you're not using a pick, we don't want these top strings to be louder than the melody, so I went that melody note a little bit louder, and then something breezy on the top. I'm just using my third finger, actually, not the pick. It's a little bit hard to see. But we always have to keep in mind that we want the melody in the forefront. And if I'm lucky, that'll stay ringing, and I'll be able to grab that at the same time. Okay? All righty. Let's go on to phrase 4 of the verse 1 of Man in the Mirror. All right. All righty, welcome back. We are at phrase 4 of verse 1, and this is definitely one of the trickiest phrases in the song. In fact, it's so tricky, I've had to stop and start the cameras a few times and try to practice the phrase so that I can play it for you correctly. The first thing I'd like to do is just sing you the rhythm. And again, this will make sense much more if you know the original song. But then I'm going to have to show you the playing aspect because there are some voices that intertwine. So let's just take a listen. I'm going to sing the phrase for you slowly. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Ba-ba-da, ba-ya-da, ba-ba-da, ba-da, ba-ba-da, ba-ba-da, ba-da, bum, 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 boom, boom, boom. Okay? One more time, that phrase. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Boo doo boo da ba da, ba boo da da da, boo boo da ba da bam 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 balloon dong dong. Okay. Now we start out with the pickup. Let's look at the guitar fingerings. We have to do a hammer and then a slide. So I'm doing D string, hammer, and then a slide. And then once I get there, I'm playing this G, that's our first G of that bass line, and that should land right on beat 1 as these notes are sustaining. 1, 2, 3, like that. Okay. 1, 2, 3. 3, 4, 1 more time. Okay. Next, we're going to switch position to this chord. It's part of a D chord. But now watch what we're going to do. We're only going to play the top 2 strings. We're going to play the top 2 strings, hammer on, and when we pull off, we play the 4th string, F sharp. See what I'm doing there? So it's like those top 2 strings are move 1, 2nd and 3rd, and then the pull off and the pick at the same time. Then pull off to an open G, and then there will be an upstroke G. Bubble da, blay ba ba. 1, 2, 3. A bubble da, be da da. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that is very tricky, I find. There we go, that was good. Now watch what we do. 2nd finger comes up to the 5th fret. And then, so this is ba ba. I'm going to slide this down to the 2nd fret. And we're going to pluck a B. So this actually, by the time it gets here to the 2nd fret, it kind of turns into a bass note. You don't have to worry about that being real loud, but we want the arrival there to coincide exactly with the B. So, see that? Hopefully without too much slide sound. Then hammer. And then an open D. Let's do that much up until that open D. I will try to go slow for you. A 1, a 2, a 3. And for that, with the flat pick, I'm using some fingers for help. 1, 2, 3. Next, let me show you what happens next. Ideally, we want to have, so hammer. We want to do that with the D in the bass, and then we also want that with the C in the bass. It's a little tricky to get that clean with the C in the bass, especially if you're doing some kind of strumming motion. So I just say, just do your best with that. And that's what I tell myself. I tell myself, Adam, do your best with that. You know, the worst thing that can happen is there's a G string and a little bit of extra noise in there, but it ideally should just be that with the bass. Okay? Now, once we are done with that, there's and we need the 2nd finger here on the C. There's a special little set of double stops that happens on top of the C chord. So here we go. So now we're at it looks like the notes of a C chord minus the middle. Pull off. Now we're going to put 1st and 3rd finger down there on the A and D. And this is where also the strumming is a nice light kind of sound. Whoops. And then that's all the action between the 1st and 4th finger. pre-chorus. So as you can see, this phrase, that's why I said at the beginning, this is an advanced piece. This is like, it shouldn't hurt your left hand, but it requires a lot of coordination and listening to get things at sort of the right volume balance. Okay, so I will try to play this phrase for you in full. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so do your best with this phrase. I know that this is one that I have to practice a lot to get the correct balance of all these elements. And so let's go on. Now we've finished the first verse. Let's go on to the pre-chorus. All right. Alrighty, we are now at the pre-chorus. In this video, we will look at bars 1 through 4 of the pre-chorus. Now this is the section that sounds like this. It starts on an A minor chord, or A minor 7. Boo da boom bam bam ba, boo da 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 da, ba boo da 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 da. So that's the section that we're going to address right now. Okay, so we're going to start with an A bass note, and then we're going to, even though it's not written in, I finger this note E in case I bonk into an extra string. That way it'll sound good, even though we're not playing the string. And the melody is, that's the melody, ba, 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 ba. But they sneak in this little extra background vocal note, the G. So you have to imagine Michael Jackson's going, ba, 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 ba. That's the main melody line. But when we listen to the recording, we hear, it's hard to hammer. And I like doing that as either a backstroke or a backstrike or a pick down. So, and then it's okay if you hit some extra strings with that. Okay, same thing with B as the bass note. Okay. Choose the right hand fingering that suits you best. Once again, second note up to the C. Now watch this. You got to come with your first finger down to the B. Now this is tricky. Watch this. We're going to go. Now you're going to hold on to that melody note, pluck the top 2 strings, and then pull that one off. Sort of gives the illusion that we're playing. When we hear that, it sounds like it sounds like but we're really not playing this note twice. We're just going. Okay. Okay, I'm going to play that nice and slow for you now. 1, 2, ready, and. Now this feels pretty naked the way that I'm playing this with just these two outer voices. You can feel free to fill that in. Maybe with some inner strings. I probably recorded it with these two voices just so that that melody voice wouldn't get covered up. But then again, feel free to add a couple extra strings or notes if they sound good to you. One more time. Pre-chorus, bars 1 through 4, nice and slow. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, and. Alrighty. Let's go on to the next video. Welcome back. All right, we're at the pre-chorus of Man in the Mirror, bars 5 through 8. And this is not a hard phrase, I don't think. This is the one that sounds like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Bum, bam, bam, bum, bam, 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 bum, bam, bum, bam. Ba ba da do da 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 ba ba dum 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 do da do. Oh, and then we're in the hook. I hope that just made sense. I guess the phrasing is a little bit tricky, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Ba ba do ba bam bam bum bam bum bam. Notice how that it stops on an, or that phrase ends on an upbeat. 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom, bim, bim, boom, bim, 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 boom, bim, ba, 2, 3. Ba ba da do da da do 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 do. Okay, so you might have to work on that phrasing. It might lay in what feels like a funny place for you rhythmically. I guess because of my jazz background, I'm used to stuff like that because I played a lot of Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie songs. Boom, boom. Anyway, here we go. We're going to be starting again. We have the first chord is A minor 7. And I finger this E over here just for safety purposes, and so we're going to be doing basically just stuff with the first finger, and then we're going to switch the bass note to B. Two, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, the phrase again. 2, 3, 4. Okay? And we're going to kind of have this bass note around it and that top note. Nice and slow. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, and. Okay, now watch. It's 030, and then we're going to add the C in the bass. Let's do the whole thing again. And you can play around with the hammer-ons and pull-offs as you like here. 1, 2, ready, and. Okay. watch what I do. Let's do that much again. 1, 2, ready, and. Next, what happens right after that is the pickup to the chorus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Ba ba dum boom 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 bam bam. Blah bum, right? Ba ba dum bum bum boom bam bam. I'm staring at the man in the mirror. I always want to say staring, it's starting. One more time, the pickup. Let's listen to the phrasing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Ba ba dum bum 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 bum. I'm starting with the man in the mirror. Now, when I used to play this with a thumb pick, I found that alternating the strings, like holding the 7th fret and the 5th fret, and alternating the fingers, helped me with the phrasing. So I wrote that in the tabs. I believe that's what I played. That's what I played on the recording. But with the flat pick, I find that string alternation is not necessary. I sort of needed that chops-wise to pull off that articulation. That's so the stretch. So you can try that, or you can just stay on one note, which for the left hand is certainly easier. So well, I like the sound of the 3rd string, so I still stretch, but you could even go. I like it because it's a little bit of a darker sound. And then we're into the hook after that. Okay, so how's about I play this last phrase of the pre-chorus for you. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, and. And then we're in the hook at that point. Alrighty, so what we're going to do next, since we did the hook in the earlier lessons, we're going to go now to the new material which you'll be encountering in verse 2. Alrighty, let's move on.